Right, perfect. So guys, this is the first day of a three-series session on architecture, basically. So first session that we have today is with Emely Patra. She's a CTA herself, and her journey has been amazing. Why should share it? You'll hear it out. Lots of ups and downs, a lot of hard work goes into it. And that's what she's going to share with us, how you can navigate your career from a developer to architect. So this is one of the major things that you need to understand, what path you need to take in order to become an architect, and how do you transform from a developer to architect. It's extremely important to understand before even you dive into that journey. So this is what session one is all about. And after this session, there's going to be another two sessions with Mira. Mira Nair is also an architect. So essentially, she's a solution architect, she's an application architect, and she has a lot of experience in Salesforce, and she'd be sharing some technical details around the building I would say, a secure and a high-performing system, and how you can start thinking not just from a developer's perspective, how to implement those things, or not from just an admin perspective, but how you should make your system or how you should architect your system so that it looks not just looks amazing from the UI perspective, but it performs amazing as well. So it's kind of a total satisfaction for the end user is what an architect targets, and that's what our journey of three sessions would be. These sessions we have the vouchers. We'll be sharing those, so that's kind of a good news. We have been sharing that over the media as well. So follow us with all three sessions, and there's a surprise for you, all of you all there. So that's about today's and the session. And I would just like to take a minute of yours to talk about me also. So as your host, you should know me. So I'm basically Neha Pardot. I'm Director of Solution with StackNexus Inc., which is a Salesforce Shopee, I would say. We are into Salesforce consulting and product development. So that's it. And I've been a Salesforce mentor for quite some time on Journey to Salesforce. I've been a community speaker myself, and I'm an architect myself. So this is about me real quick. Let's jump to one of the most important things. So today you have joined us on this new daily Salesforce DG group official channel. So this is where you are, and the series where we're performing these sessions is Impact Salesforce Saturday. So it's a well-known initiative in the world of Salesforce. You guys must know that, and we've been doing a lot of sessions under Impact Salesforce Saturday. It's this revival meeting happened on February 2016, as you guys see, and we've been doing a lot of sessions since then. And Impact Salesforce Saturday is part of those sessions pretty much. So this is our website, and this is our Trailblazer community group. So guys, follow us over there again and visit us for these sessions. Impact Salesforce Saturday. This is, again, as I said, that it's run by New Delhi Salesforce Developer Program, and not just by us. It's run all over the world, and I've known that 96 formal groups are associated with this program. And this is a lot of sharing and lots of giving back to the Salesforce community happening over there. Other than that, a quick update for all of you all. You must have heard this. You must have known this as a buzzword out there, Talent Central. So if you guys are looking for a job in Salesforce community, if you're a student and you want to get into the Salesforce world, this is where you need to register yourself, get yourself enrolled. We have a lot of HRs over there which are looking for good talent who is interested in Salesforce, who's inclined towards Salesforce, who has background, some sort of background and understanding of Salesforce. So go ahead, upload your files, and we really hope that this comes out to be fruitful for you, and you sort of grab a good job and share your success stories with us once you are into the job. So that's about Talent Central. Another initiative by the Daily Salesforce DAG group is the Mentorship Central. Mentorship Central is an amazing program. There are a lot of mentors who have registered themselves over there and open to share their knowledge with the people who are interested in enhancing their knowledge in Salesforce, and not just Salesforce, the other technologies which surround Salesforce, which was like MuleSoft and Tableau, etc. So we have a lot of mentors over there. So guys, if you're interested in learning and you're looking for the mentors, just go ahead, look at Mentorship Central, find out the mentor that suits your requirement, that suits what you want to learn. Go ahead and approach them through the Mentorship Central, and you can, there'll be follow-ups. You'll receive emails from your mentor if they accept you as a mentee, and there starts your journey, further journey to Salesforce, to understand the platform better and to learn better. Another thing that I want to draw your attention is to Journey to Salesforce program, guys. This program needs a shout out, a loud shout out. Just share this with your friends and with the people that you care about, who want to enter into the Salesforce world, who are already employed in the IT industry, but they want to move their career towards Salesforce. So this is one program. It's a 160 hours training program, which is an official program by Salesforce. So subscribe to the Telegram channel for this and get the updates and enroll. Or if you guys are already in Salesforce, and just share it with the people who want to get into the domain. That's an amazing program, guys. These are the list of our channels. Please take a note of this, and Shashant, if possible, if you could quickly share this over the chat with the audience. Guys, this is the Mentorship Central that I talked about. Go enroll yourself and enhance your knowledge. Nothing better than having a mentor leading you through your journey, helping you out, and you two grow together. So this is extremely important, and not just as mentee, but if you think that you want to contribute to the community and you'd be able to mentor someone, you'd want to help someone's journey through, so please register as a mentor as well. So go ahead and do that. So I'll highly recommend that thing. And these are the other channels where you can follow us. And for our upcoming session and the previous sessions, you can have a look at our website. So this is about it. Please join the Telegram channel for the latest updates. We post our session, all the details around this session, any Salesforce updates on our Telegram channel. So do join that as well. Last but not the least, this is extremely important, guys. So these are our sponsors, Cloud Vandana and Grey Opus Technologies. Cloud Vandana is a well-known name in the Salesforce India community. We know that pretty well. They are one of the finest and growing consultants out there. And Grey Opus Technologies, again, MuleSoft and an integration organization. So essentially, shout out to them. Thanks for always being supportive there. So this is, guys, about us, and I would like to take a break of a minute to talk to Emely to see where do we stand with her technical issue. So Sushant, meanwhile, would you want to take up for a couple of seconds so that I can real quick check with her?
Sure, Neil, sure.
Thanks, guys.
So very sorry for the delay from our side. Emily will definitely join in within a few minutes, and then we will start. So as Neha already explained, we have officially starting our architect series. This is our first session of this series, and then followed by this, we have two awesome uh, sessions of Mira, and we are very fortunate that Mira joined us today. So thank you so much, Mira, for being a part of today's session. And then, guys, I already told you we are giving away one Salesforce certification voucher at the end of this series. So we have two rules every participant should have to follow in order to make them eligible. Uh, the first one is you have you have to attend all the three sessions. You should be the part of three sessions, and at the end of each session, we will conduct a Kahoot quiz. So and let me tell you guys, these questions are not out of the syllabus. These are from the slides what our speakers present, and so you just have to be focused and listen carefully what our speakers are going to tell you, and then on the basis of that, we conduct a Kahoot quiz, and meanwhile, while this series is running, if if somehow our Impact Salesforce Saturday session series is helping you, and if you are learning something new with our sessions, especially with this architect session, then definitely please share your love for us on LinkedIn and Twitter. And you can visit our website where we have mentioned to whom you have to tag and what are the Twitter handles and what are hashtags you have to use while you are sharing or retweeting uh, on social media. So these are the two things, two rules, very easy rules. First one, attend all the sessions and participate all three Kahoot quizzes. And second one, uh, meanwhile, this entire series is running from today's to 12th of December. You have to share, retweet, and reshare anyone's post on LinkedIn or Twitter as much as you can. And then at the end of the series, we will go through the results of all Kahoot quizzes, combine them in a one, and then we will also see the activities. And with the combination of these things, we will announce our winner for this Kahoot series. And that guy will get a $200 sales for certification voucher from us. Pretty easy, not a big task, I guess. So you can do it.
Hey,
Let's see.
so Vishweshwar, there's a question from Vishweshwar. He's saying any geographical restrictions on the participation of winning this prize? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, we welcome people which are not actually in the geographical areas that we are into. So we're absolutely open about it. More than welcome.
All right, so we have Emily with us. Let me allow her. Go ahead, Nia.
Hey, Emily. Emily, can you hear us? Sushant, did you let her in? I can't see her in participants list. She's in
Hi,
there.
can you hear me?
Hey, Emily. Hi, absolutely, loud and clear. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. Sorry about the whole confusion.
No worries. Thank you so much for joining in. We have been waiting for you. So I'm happy to wait for you. Thanks.
Right,
Thanks for
thank you.
joining in.
I am honored. Just give me a moment while I while I sort my camera out and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Emily. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah. So, Emily, we are just providing some needful permissions to you so that you can share your screen. And
Okay, great.
yeah, so just a few seconds. I will update.
Okay.
So Emily, how's the weather there?
Oh, it's really cold.
Ah,
It went into -1 yesterday, and yeah, it was crazy.
okay, okay.
Not
I
too
like
bad.
winters. Yeah, I'm fan of winters somehow.
Yeah, not when you live in the UK. We have winter all year round.
I know.
So,
I've been in UK. I've been in London for 3 years.
okay.
2015 to 2018, I was there, and I loved the place. I love the vibes
Yeah.
of London.
Yeah. Well, if you can get
Yeah,
into
where?
London now.
Oh, oh, thanks to the IT word.
Yeah, yeah. As in, thanks to COVID, all our travel has stopped, and it's not great.
True, true. Okay,
Can I
I
start
hope you
sharing my
have
screen?
absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Okay, great. Yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
No, no, you didn't. You didn't. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So Can you all now see my first slide?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, good. So thank you for having me. Do you guys want to kick it off about the session, or are you happy for me to go?
So, Emily, we have already shared what the session is going to be about, and we have shared a couple of details about the New Delhi Salesforce group as well. And we did talk about you being CTA and a little bit the way I like you. I mean, your journey. I've heard you before, and I loved your journey. I heard it. So your hard work and everything. We did talk about it while you were not there. So yeah, we are happy if you take it over from here.
So I missed the good part, yeah? All right.
You can hear the recordings though.
All right. Okay, thank you very much for having me. And first of all, I must apologize for making all of you wait. I did think it was starting in 1 hour from now, so I had to rush back a little bit. So really apologies for wasting your time there. And I hope you find it worth waiting for. And you know, I hope the rest of the next 45 minutes is quite useful. So without further ado, I will get started. As some of you know, my name is Emely Patra. I currently work with Salesforce. Been here 5 years. I'm the regional vice president for EMEA. So, and I'm a Salesforce CTA, passed my CTA in 2018. And currently I am in the MuleSoft business unit of Salesforce. That's a move I made a year and a half ago, which I'm thoroughly enjoying because it's completely a new set of platform, new set of technologies, etc. So yeah, as I said, I head the MuleSoft customer success strategy and architecture group for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and I'm also part of Office of CTO for MuleSoft, so which is a very, very interesting role. And it also gives me a lot of insight into products, etc. So if I do make any forward-looking statements, by the way, take them as forward-looking statements, because I'm obliged to tell you that you're not supposed to make any buying decisions based on any futuristic or forward-looking statements that I make. Right, okay, so with that, let's get started. So here's a little bit of the agenda for today. We'll start a bit with introspection, because today we're talking about a career, and obviously there are multiple career paths, but today we're focusing on if you're a developer, or how do you navigate from being a developer into an architect role, if that's the kind of aspiration that you have. And so we'll do a little bit of introspection on how to think about where you want to go, and then we'll level set on the dev role a little bit before we go and talk about what an architect does and what the architect mindset needs to be. And then we'll do a bit of mapping on what's the mindset required to change from a developer to an architect. What are things that you need to do differently, and then we'll talk a little bit about opportunities and possibilities in today's career landscape. Of course, it's an ever-changing landscape, so we will just talk about what's relevant today. And then I'll open up for some Q&A, which I'm hoping I will get a lot of questions. So happy to answer them, and yeah, take it from there. So the first bit is, before we start talking about any career journey or even navigating your career from where you are to where you want to be, you need to think about what is it that you like doing. So in your current role, what's fun for you? What's your definition of fun at work? Well, obviously, apart from the social aspect, I'm talking about the real aspect of work, is, do you enjoy coding? Do you enjoy digging deep into your architectures? Are you a syntax person? Are you a detailed person? Do you actually enjoy the big picture aspect of it? Do you like being strategic? Do you like being focused? Do you like being broad? It really depends on what your individual definition of fun is. Obviously, what's your current skill sets? What are your natural skills? And that's quite an important thing to understand before you choose to go on a certain career path. And I always say this, that what you choose to do and what you aspire to be does not have to be based on your current skill set, because, well, career progression means you are going to learn new skills as you go, right? So if you're going to decide on what I'm going to be in the future is based on what I know today, that's not the right way of making a career decision. The right way of making a career decision is I'm interested. I think I have natural skills, unpolished skills in a certain area, and I could progress. And I know that if I play to my strengths, I'm going to do much better at my career. So that's the piece where you think, this part of the job I find easy, and you find easy because, well, you're experienced in it, you've done a lot of it, or it's just a natural strength to you. And which is the part of the job which is challenging, but still enjoyable and still an aspiration. Another aspect to think about is what is it that makes you snooze at work? What is it that you find boring and you don't want to do? And you in your current role, you hope it doesn't exist. And all of us have that. Maybe detailed reading documents, writing documents is the most boring part of your job. I don't know. Some people enjoy writing 100-page documents. I don't. I'm a one-slider kind of person, right? And that too, I will avoid writing text. I'll put pictures in there. So it depends on what you enjoy and what you really want to drop from your next role, which you should think about as an aspect, because when you're thinking about your next role, you think, right, if I hate writing 100-page documents and the next role is about producing detailed document, is that the right role for me? Even that's a hype, that's a hype role right now in the industry. Do I really want to go and do that? So think about what makes you snooze at work as well. And then obviously the aspiration piece is very important. It's not based on your current skill sets of what I know today, but it should be on what's next. Where do I want to go? What do I want to see? How do I want to operate? Or even if you don't know, that's okay. If there's an area where you think, I want to try this out, I want to test out where my skills lie, that's fine as well. So a bit of introspection is quite important before you start on any career journey. Obviously for today's session, we'll be a little focused on Salesforce development to Salesforce architecture. So yeah, with that in mind, let's go and level set a little bit on what my idea of a strength of a Salesforce developer are. So in my mind, a Salesforce developer is a domain expertise, has domain expertise. And by domain expertise, I mean they could be great at writing Apex, they could be great at writing triggers, they could be great at the underlying integration, structure. They could just be great at both config and code. So it depends on what level of developer you are, what kind of project you're working, and what your skill set is. I think a developer's natural strength, any developer's natural strength, is that they are detail oriented, and they have to be, because they are the people who are taking the design and the visualization and the concept and actually converting them into an executable product, something tangible. And to create something tangible, you have to be focused on the details, because an architect will not tell you exactly what if else statement, what are the branches that can happen, what are the boundary cases that can happen. It's up to a developer, and a tester to think about that. So they are quite detailed oriented. I think that's a strength. They are quite bounded by scope as well, which is what people like about their careers when they are a developer, that they have a scope, they have a design to work with. They know what the technical outcome needs to be, and they need to make it happen. And if you're a kind of person who works well with scope and boundaries, perfect. It's the kind of job you're the right kind of job to be in. Obviously, execution is the strength of a developer, because being a developer means you're executing on a vision, you're executing on a design, and you're executing flawlessly. You're the person who makes the rocket fly, not just draw the rocket on the paper. So it is very important. I think it's a very key role that we need in the ecosystem. And focused delivery. So, focused delivery is again about what I talked about, being bounded by scope, being focused on the technical outcome, being focused on what is your use case rather than what the big picture is. And hence that allows you to become an expert and being detailed oriented, etc. So the reason I'm talking about all of this is not everyone wants to be an architect. It's not everyone's cup of tea to be an architect. So you have to think about what you enjoy in your current role, what your current strengths are, and what are the strengths that you want to develop, or what is it that you want to do in the future, and then make a decision on becoming an architect. If you do make that decision, if you do still want to go ahead and explore that career path, here's my next slide. We'll talk about what an architect really does. It's a very wordy slide. There are lots of words on it. So I'm going to talk through all of them. No pictures, sorry about that. Next time I'll evolve. But yeah, in my mind, that there are three streams of responsibilities that an architect takes on a program. And there are many kinds of architects. I've tried to keep it as generic as possible. But these are applicable in pretty much every kind of architecture. So architectural drivers are the first thing. So when we talk about architectural drivers, we're really talking about what are the requirements, what are the constraints, what is the current landscape, what are the political aspects in the organization, what is the budget, etc. So there are all these architectural drivers that you're thinking when you're thinking of an architecture. And there's anyone who's worked in a real life project would know there's a huge amount of difference between a practical architecture solution and an ideal architecture solution. An ideal best practice architecture solution pretty much never works in an organization because every organization has its unique constraints and you have to adapt to that organization's constraint. So for a good architect, it's very important to be able to understand the architectural drivers. Architecture evaluation is the next step. So once you understand your environment, your requirements, your constraints around it, you then evaluate what your current landscape is, understanding that the architecture you're thinking about will fit into the organization on a bigger picture. And any enterprise today has upwards of hundreds of applications. Like this is the SaaS era. And it's not, any organization today is not just doing Salesforce, not just doing Oracle, not just doing SAP. They're doing all of it, and Workday, and Slack, and something else, and something else. So enterprises today are composable enterprises. They have lots of different applications. And the idea of an architect is you don't want to go in with a brand new solution that does not fit in or does not play well with the other application landscape. You want to make the organization as an architect more agile, and you want to make it scalable and maintainable and all the good things that an architect talks about. And to do that, you have to be able to understand what else is out there and what you're proposing. Does it play well with the others? So talking about architecture evaluation is one of the most important aspects of an architect's work, is to make sure that they understand the landscape and make sure that their proposed architecture fits in well and plugs in well in the current landscape, whether it's from a transformation perspective or from a tactical, just, I want to make it work in the current landscape. On a bigger project, it will be, yeah, but the vision is transformation. So it might not work with the current landscape, but I know how to transition from the current landscape into that transformational vision. Could be either ways. The third one is problem solving. And problem solving is a key skill for everyone, for developers and architects. But for an architect, it's at a different level. The problem solving could be, on a driver's level, on an architecture evaluation level, on a business level. Are you having to negotiate your business outcomes with your business stakeholders because the way you see it and the way they see it is different? So problem solving, again, a very key aspect. You're having to work around your landscape and your constraints. Risk assessment, another key aspect. Any good architect should be able to see the risks associated with the architecture. There's nothing called a perfect architecture. Every architecture has its pros and cons, and a good architect will have a long list of cons for their own architecture as well as the pros. So it's not just about, hey, my architecture is perfect and it's got all of these positives. It's also, this is where my architecture can fall down. These are the external criteria that could impact my architecture, et cetera, et cetera. So that is a very important thing to keep in mind, is the risk assessment of your own architecture. Be your own critic is a very important trait to have. Architecture evolution. So it's not just about today. An architect is typically seen as a visionary, and a visionary is thinking about the future. And when you're thinking about the future, you have to keep the evolution in mind. You are architecting for solving maybe today's problem, but today is not going to be the same by the time your solution is implemented. And you have to keep that in mind, saying what could change, what could be the roadmap, what are the variables here which are not stable. What are the, how will my organization scale with this architecture? How am I going to maintain it? What's going to be the ongoing cost for keeping the solution up? Is it too expensive? Is it a one-time thing? Is it going to be, am I going to have to hire specialists to maintain this whole solution, et cetera, et cetera. So architecture evolution, a good architecture will always be, designed in mind with an evolution. And then, so these were all the architectural responsibilities. Now let's focus a little bit on the technology aspect. What does an architect do, and focus on from a technology point of view? So an architect, usually if you're an enterprise architect, you'll be involved in technology selection. Now, technology selection is usually, as I said, depends on your landscape, what plays well, what kind of integration you already have, what is a compatible solution. Maybe one technology is better than the other because it fits in well with your current stack of applications, etc. So technology selection with a big picture in mind is one of the key responsibilities. Quality assurance, very important. It's not enough to say, I want a BMW i8 built, right? You have to say that I want an i8 built, which is electric, and it works in it's a plug and play across, multiple countries. It is soundless, it's an electric car, so sound pollution is a big thing, et cetera, et cetera. So, you define what is the standard of quality. And the standard of quality could differ from your program to program, or you could have an enterprise standard of quality. But essentially, what is it that is important for any new architecture to play nicely and to uplift the organization standard, I would say, not just maintain the standards. They are the design authority usually. So again, if you've worked in any program at all, you would know that no design going in is implemented exactly the way it was designed. There are always new constraints which come up. There are new information which comes up, which forces us to change our direction. Developers come up with some details which the architect didn't think of, and hence they're thinking, so I designed it this way, but my developer tells me that if I implement it this way, it's not the most optimal solution. How do I optimize? So directions change all the time. And you need a design authority normally on any program. Make sure that the directions are still in line with the vision and they're still going in the right direction. So architects are usually on the design authority board, and it's a very important ongoing role they play in an organization. Development standards, again, I think adheres to quality assurance. It depends on what kind of architect you are. You might be a technical architect. You might be actually writing the design and development standards for your team. You might be a domain architect. You might be giving them a set of standards on how to do data design or what principles to adhere to, etc. So it really depends on where you sit in the organization. And then there's the deployment strategy. Deployment strategy is all about, well, how are you going to take the solution live? Is it a big bang? Is it a one weekend approach? Is it a trickle approach? Is it we're going to do one feature every week? I don't know what it looks like. If you have big data, how are you going to do that migration piece? How are you going to make sure users don't interfere with the deployment process, etc. So there's a whole strategy around how to take your applications live. And architects have quite a key role to play in that. Now there's the people aspect of being an architect. And this is a very, very important skill set, because I think this is what differentiates a technologist from an architect. Leadership. An architect is typically providing organizational and thought leadership. And by thought leadership, because the architect is a visionary, they would be the one who will want to convince and get people along in the journey of their vision. Whether it's converting the business outcomes into a vision or a roadmap, or whether it's getting their developers on board on why they should adopt a new technology, based on their vision. So that leadership quality is quite important. Stakeholder management is a key day-to-day for an architect. And an architect does multiple cross-functional stakeholder management. And by cross-functional stakeholder management, I mean an architect could be, sitting in with the developers, really going down into the details of implementation. They'll be doing the technical design authority, but they'll also be talking to the business stakeholders to make sure that the vision is still aligned, that the solution is still aligned to what the vision of the business is, what the outcomes are for the business. So it is very important for them to do that stakeholder management, keep everyone informed, and hence communication is a big aspect of stakeholder management from an architect's perspective. Negotiation is a key skill that an architect uses every day. And they might be negotiating for the way a business outcome is seen and translated to the way a technology is implemented to achieve those translations. And it's always being pragmatic, going in with an open mind and a 360-degree view of what you want, and being open to suggestions and feedbacks is quite an important aspect, again, in being an architect. Translation of outcomes, it's a two-way translation. They're translating developer to business, business to developer, I don't know, CEO to business, CIO to technologies. It could be all sorts of translations. The key skill here is, are you able to talk to the audience in their language? If you're talking to developers and you're talking about, well, achieving 10% growth in your revenue, great, they'll understand it. They just don't know what to do about it. So are they the right audience? Or do you want to pitch to your developers to achieve this outcome, we need to do this, and we need to do it this way, and this is how we're going to save cost or add revenue or whatever it looks like. And hence that translation is quite a key skill, pitching at the right level to the right audience. And coaching and mentoring. Architects are constantly coaching and mentoring on best practices, on thought leadership, on developing their peers, because that's the way they scale. If everything's in their head, if they are the only visionary, essentially we're getting a very, very narrow lens of perspective. A good architect will always include their peers and always be inclusive of feedback from around them, and incorporate good feedback and be pragmatic around it. So those are the key responsibilities and skill sets that I've talked about that are important to be an architect. Obviously, there are myriads of it. I've only taken like a small subset of what I felt was quite important thinking about when you're going to that next phase of your career. Next, I'm going to just talk about what it means to actually architect a solution. And when I say architecting a solution, I essentially mean there's so many aspects of architecting a solution. It's like building a house. It's all well and good that you have your first draft of the outline of how your house looks like, but there's so many details to it. Where are the plugs going to go? How are you going to run the plumbing? How are you going to run the electrics? What kind of roof? What country do you live in? What weatherproofing do you need? So it's a very, very wide area to think about. And rightly so, from a Salesforce perspective, if you think about it, each of these aspects is like a little Lego block. And I always talk about Legos. So if you've heard about heard any of my previous talks, always have this analogy, because I feel that is the most relevant in the way I think of every single aspect of architecture as a Lego block. And like security, integration, whether it's process or scalability or performance or even UX is all aspects of an architecture. And when you think about it, no one looks at a Lego block on its own and says, oh, wow, this is a masterpiece. Because a Lego block is not complete, or it really holds no meaning or value till it's created into a solution. When you bring all of that together, and in our terms, the way we do it is we apply business context to it. And when we apply business context to all of these domains, and then we decide, well, are we going to make a house, a car, or a pyramid? It doesn't matter. It depends on your business context. You're going to use the same building blocks. You're going to use the same best practices and principles of security, in a different business context to build a different solution every time you're executing on a program. So that's what really architecting a solution is. It is the knowledge that you gain on every domain, that it's applied to a business context and it achieves a business value. And the business value is your end result. And a lot of you are even thinking about the CTA, as a goal in the Salesforce ecosystem. And this is what the CTA mindset is all about as well. It is about bringing it all together and applying the right lens of business context to it to see the right vision, or to get to the right solution, because the building blocks are the same, pretty much. The foundation is the same. So when you're starting on your journey, you might not be an expert in all of these, but as you go along, you build your knowledge on each of these blocks, and then you know how to put them together to achieve different outcomes in different circumstances. And that's what architecture is about. That is what architecting a solution is about. So going on to the next bit, which is about, so we've talked about what an architect does. We've talked about what the strengths of a developer are. So when you're thinking about a journey, how do you actually map it in your mind to say, so what are the things that I need to change, if I'm thinking about going into an architect role? So in this case, I've provided you a very basic, high-level mapping of what you should be thinking about. So the first thing you should be thinking about is when you're a developer, you're a specialist, and you're, you have expertise. Being an architect, you have to think about being a generalist, and you have to think about not just having vision of one point of view, but having multiple aspects and thinking about multiple things and understanding multiple technologies as well. The next important aspect is when you're a developer, you have deep expertise in your domain. You're the expert. You know how to make the rocket fly. But when you're an architect, you're the expert on everything else around it. It's just not about making the rocket lift off. It's also around building it, and how is it going to survive in space, and what kind of weight can it carry? How many days will it last? What are the other aspects? You're thinking about the atmosphere and the weather and the variables. There's a lot of things. So going from deep expertise to a broad knowledge is quite a leap if you're thinking about going from a developer to an architect aspect. Obviously, as a developer, the next thing you have is you have technical stakeholders. You're constantly talking to your architects, to your testers, to your QA people to come up with a technology solution. And hence all your stakeholders probably understand the technical language that you're talking about. As an architect, however, you're talking about cross-functional stakeholders. You're talking to the business, you're talking to the C-suite, you're talking to your developers, you're talking to your testers. So you're talking to a myriad of people. And it is quite a varied conversation. You require to context switch quite a lot. And that is quite an important mindset to change from going from technical stakeholder management to a cross-functional or business stakeholder management. The next part is about technology outcomes. So as I said in my first slide, when you're a developer, you're focused, you have a bounded scope of work to deliver, and you're very focused on the technology outcomes. You want to make the solution work. Being an architect, the lens really switches. Well, you might achieve the technology outcomes, but not every technology outcome achieves the business outcomes it was meant to achieve. There's so many projects out there which get executed, which take 2 years, 3 years to go live, which do not achieve the original business outcomes which it was planned for. And mostly because of lack of communication, or lack of translation of vision, or working in silos. And that is where an architect should be bridging the gap between that vision and making sure that the technology outcomes are still aligned to the vision and the business outcomes, for the reason, the very reason the project's being executed is to achieve the business outcomes. Nobody does a project to achieve technology outcomes. Well, some people do, but that's a different topic. The next one is about bounded scope. Okay, so as a developer, you have a bounded scope. You're working within a domain or a module or a specific scope of work that needs to get delivered. Whereas as an architect, you're thinking big picture. You're thinking, how does this fit into the whole organizational business output? Maybe this is just a transitional project for you. Maybe you have a roadmap and the end goal is this is step one. So a developer, while this is the project for them, that's the most important job they have. For you, it's taking this and thinking, does this address my transition architecture to go on to the next step? And can I move to the next step based on what I'm doing today? So again, the thinking changes from bounded scope of delivery to big picture thinking and really being, having the future vision in mind. So some of the steps that I've said here are, quite generic, but if you think about it, and then if you start mapping the skills that I talked about in the architect, you'll find that it makes sense. It's just a way of thinking. It's a different mindset. It's what do you see first when you look at a solution? Do you see the solution? Do you see the outcome? So it's a different way of thinking from being a developer to an architect, and it requires quite a slow and deliberate journey if you're thinking about changing that mindset and going on the journey of becoming an architect. So next slide, I'm going to just talk about what it means to have that architect mindset, and I wanted to make it very simple. So they're just, in my mind, they're just 3 simple principles, which you always have to remember when you're thinking like an architect. And the 3 principles are: think strategically, think 10 steps in advance, think about how the situation could evolve, how levers could change, assess risk and mitigations honestly, know the limitations, know the workarounds. So be strategic and be very deliberate and conscious about the decisions you're making. The second aspect is communicate effectively. And communication, as I said, is probably one of the most important skills of an architect. Is a good architect not only knows the solution, but they can also explain it to different audiences as well. And they can relate to the audience and connect to the audience based on what their audience wants to hear. So that is a very important skill to have. And as you all know that, well, you might have the knowledge, but your knowledge is no good if you can't get your stakeholders to understand. And if you can't use your knowledge to translate effectively for your stakeholders. So having deep knowledge is important. Being able to express yourself and your knowledge is even more important. And be it developers or business leaders, communicating in the context and in the language of your audience is the key to being any top-class professional. The third and the most important one, I think, is see the big picture. So know the difference between a good architect and a good developer. An architect always has an eye on the big picture and the end results. And whereas a developer, rightly so, is going to go deep into the current problem statement and solution for the current problem statement. Both are correct and both are absolutely required in their job. And that's why these are 2 different roles, because we need both of them to work together. So it depends on where your career interest lies, whether you're a big picture thinker or you're a detailed solution thinker. You should choose wisely. But for being an architect, definitely seeing the big picture is quite important. And you should be able to model together a vision of where each module or where each project fits in, and to achieve what kind of a solution. So keeping an eye on the end results and keeping the program on track to achieve the right business results is the key in here. So just taking these 3 simple concepts in mind and thinking about how you will shift your mindset from being a developer to an architect, skills are important as well. And how do you achieve those skills? So let's just talk about the Salesforce ecosystem a little bit. So from a Salesforce ecosystem's perspective, Salesforce has a very well-defined pyramid of being a technical architect, so being a CTA. And if you're thinking just from a Salesforce perspective, I think you should start at the administrator option and then go up the application architect and system architect pyramids, achieve the certifications. But remember, certifications are certifications, they're the theory. The most important part is not just completing the certifications, but getting hands-on experience implementing what you've learned as part of each of your domain certification, and making sure you understand the pros and cons and things around it, not just focus on, say, the sharing and visibility, but also understand what are the external aspects that influence it, how you make decisions, what are the key things that change when you do these. So climb the path, the certification path, but just don't be hung up on doing the certifications, because passing a certification and having knowledge are two different things again. So I always encourage people to get the project experience, the hands-on experience, implement your knowledge in live environments and think about it, and not just think about passing the certification from a theoretical point of view. Because finally, when you get to the review board, theoretical knowledge does not help. To really pass the CTA review board, you have to be able to apply your knowledge to a real business scenario and think pragmatically and think wide. So something to think about on how do you acquire your skills. And then once you've got your skills, the next thing to think about is what kind of architect are you going to be? Obviously, there are many possibilities and how you can get started. Everybody has a different journey. And when I talk about a journey, pretty much everyone starts at the domain architect level. Everybody has an area of strength where they say, well, I'm great at integration, so I'm just going to do integration architecture. And then they do it for a few years, and then they go into data, and then maybe into security, etc. So everybody starts somewhere being a domain expert. And then you could choose a direction of, being a solution architect, a technical architect, a business architect, an enterprise architect. There's so many other kinds of architects in the ecosystem today. Every organization has their own definition of architect. It really depends on what your interest is and what else is coming up, because as I said, our ecosystem is evolving constantly. And whereas I would say 15 years ago, there was just one kind of architect, now there are many. Every architect has a specialism to them, but every architect, even with their specialism, has a broader view of what's around them. So before you make your career decision, obviously, as I said, go back to the first introspection slide and think about what you enjoy, what your natural strengths are, and what's coming up next, what's the industry, and what you would like your career to be, and then make a decision. And with that, I think I've done a lot of talking, so I would like to open up for Q&A.
Thanks, Emily. So I think we do have a couple of questions. Let me pick it up from the chat. So the first question is, there was one slide where we saw that you talked about developer having deep expertise and an architect must have broad knowledge. So Ankit would want to understand this a little better.
So when I talk about deep expertise versus broad knowledge, as I said, developers actually executing on the design and the vision. So hence, by deep expertise, I mean, they would actually know how to implement it in depth, how to test the solution, how to deploy the solution, how to write the code, the underlying, platform technologies, etc. An architect might not have that deep a knowledge. An architect might not understand exactly what constructs of code you're going to use to come up with the feature, but the architect knows what the feature should do, what it should achieve, how it should work, how it should scale, how it should be maintained. So that design and vision is the broad knowledge, because to have that vision, the architect will need to understand the other stuff around it as well. So it's not just about this feature working. This feature has to work in a wider environment, with other external factors which influence it. So that broad vision is for the architect to decide. And it might not be just one technology platform, right? It could be something you're doing in Salesforce, which then needs to plug into an SAP or Oracle or get data from it and get fed in. And then there's a whole integration platform underlying that. And the architect should have a view of how this all fits in together. Whereas a developer would really just be focused on this is the feature and this is the data that comes into Salesforce, and this is what we do with it in Salesforce. So does that clarify?
Yeah, that really helps that. Thanks so much. Guys, anyone? Any other questions? Okay, so Darshan says, first, congrats, Emely, for 5 years in Salesforce.
Thank you.
And the question that Sudarshan has is, what are the 3 points you developed and focused when moving to MuleSoft ecosystem?
Can you repeat that question?
So what are the 3 points you developed or focused when you moved to MuleSoft ecosystem?
3 points?
Yeah, so 3 points.
Why does it have to be 3? No,
I don't know.
Right, okay. Another aspect of the architect, always question the question. So why did I move? So 3 points I worked on to move into MuleSoft. Right, let me think about this. So one of my key reasons of moving in on the MuleSoft side of the business was I had done my CTA on Salesforce, and me being me, I am always looking to expand my knowledge base. And I thought MuleSoft, so in Salesforce, we always talk about digital transformation and customer 360-degree, but that vision is not achievable without an integration platform, because you can't have a customer 360-degree working with just a CRM or just an ERP or just a database, right? Customer 360-degree in any enterprise is all about bringing the data together, bringing the landscape together, and having a very holistic view of your organization. And that's underpinning the digital transformation. So I thought MuleSoft's vision and where and how MuleSoft was placed as a platform really helped our customers achieve that vision. And that was super exciting to me, because that's the part of the conversation I really wanted to have with my customers. So even before we acquired MuleSoft, when I was talking to my customers, we were still talking about digital transformation, but I could only talk about one aspect of it. And then I had to talk about the integration aspect, but kind of stopped at that because we didn't have a solution to offer, once we got into that integration space. But with the acquisition of MuleSoft, now we do. Now we can talk about the holistic view of, here's your CRM, here's all your other legacy systems and SAPs and ERPs, and here's MuleSoft. And here's how MuleSoft actually helps you bring everything together and get you that whole 360-degree view of your business. So that was my key interest in joining MuleSoft. What else did I develop? Obviously, I brushed up on my integration knowledge for my interviews, so that was obvious. But also, again, a key interest for me for moving to MuleSoft was because I was going to head this brand new team. And building a team from scratch was extremely exciting. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity for any leader. Normally, when you go in as a leader, you inherit a team and then there are set processes and you make changes and you make those changes slowly. For me, I was starting from a blank sheet of paper, which is incredible. And I've enjoyed it. I've loved my time at MuleSoft and what we've done with the team here in EMEA. Does that answer your question?
Amazing to hear. Okay, there's one more question, Vishamber again. So he's saying, what mistakes did you make in your first project as an architect, and what were your takeaways from them?
Oh, that's difficult to remember because it's a long, long time ago. I'm sure I made lots of mistakes. I just tried to remember one. I think and this is during my Oracle times when I did my first project and we were doing, and we were doing this implementation for Oracle ERP financials, right? There was integration was the missing piece in that project as well. And I barely knew anything about integration at that point because I was purely focused, this first role as an architect, and I was focused on really just the ERP process side of it. But I really did not understand how then it went to the downstream financial systems or how the credit notes were actually generated out to the dealers, et cetera, et cetera. So there was a lot of domain expertise from other domains that I was missing. And I think we came across a problem. I can't remember exactly what we were solving for, but we were solving for an automation problem. And because we didn't have a proper integration solution, or at least I didn't have knowledge of it, I built a custom integration engine in Oracle workflows. I don't even know whether you guys will even remember, but it existed 20 years or 15 years ago. And I did a custom built thing, and it was like a BPM, integration automation. And I was incredibly proud of it because that was the developer in me, right? I built something and I'm proud of it. I'm like, super, I was innovative in my mind. But what I thought was, I only thought about how it solved my problem from an ERP perspective. What I did not think about is when this is going to get integration, or this is going to get pulled by an ESB, it's going to add steps in the processing, which will slow my process down. And because it was custom built, Custom built has its problems. And every time we had to tweak or maintain it or do a performance tuning on it, well, people had to either come to me or the developer who actually wrote the code, because we were the only two people who understood what was going on inside it, right? And I think that was a mistake. I did not follow standardization. I got so excited and carried away with my knowledge of the domain. And a lot of people do that, right? A lot of people are very proud of the custom solutions they build. Nothing wrong with that. But you also have to understand that finally, you have to be pragmatic. You have to make it play nicely with the other aspects of the landscape, and hence there'll be changes. So yeah, my learning from then was to be more collaborative across the team. So maybe I could have gone and talked to the integration team who sat in the other building at that time, and maybe got a perspective on what I'm doing. Does this work? Will it create a problem? And maybe I would have known that it will be it will introduce a few performance issues because we're doing some extra processing in between. So yeah, that was just if I remember correctly, that was my novice mistake. Yeah.
Okay. No, and this was extremely important. I mean, you did mention a couple of very, very important things, talked about custom solutions and using the platform itself, the features that platform offers. That's I think I have completely always believed what your platform gives you, just try to use that as much as possible. And that doesn't make your solution good. It makes it really scalable as well. So I totally agree with you. Okay, so I think this is what we have. I have one question, Emely, for you. So from your slides, another slide there was something regarding being a specialist and generalist. So I know there are a lot of developers who want to transition, and they're here to hear you out. So they have their own special things they're working on. Somebody is a lightning champ, somebody is good at LWC or JavaScript, and somebody is absolutely good at Apex, or somebody is very, very good at integration. So now what do they need to start doing to take a step ahead and come out of their comfort specialist zone and work towards their journey to being an architect?
Obviously, there are two ways of going about it, depending on your own personality. And I have to say this. There's some people who absolutely take the leap of faith and go and do something entirely different and push themselves. And then because they're confident, they're going to get through it. The other more treaded path, I think, is start with where your strength is and maybe try and become an architect in that. So if you're, if you think that you are really good at security as an aspect, maybe try and develop an architect's view of that, maybe try and get the domain certification for that, try and work in an architect capacity, or at least in a partial architect capacity in a program and have inputs to that and learn from the architects around you. So you could either start with your strength and look for what kind of opportunities there are to become an architect, but maybe a domain architect rather than going for the big picture. Because as I said, it's not a one-day transition. You can't go from being a specialist to being an enterprise architect, because an enterprise architect is literally a very high level of architecture, where you're not just dealing with one technology platform, you're dealing with multiple technology platforms. So yeah, start with maybe being a domain architect, develop your strengths and go one domain at a time. And then when you have enough of those domain knowledge, essentially, you're on your path to become either a well-rounded solution or a well-rounded technical architect, depending on where your interest and strength lies. So yeah, or if you feel confident, go for a job that requires you to be a big picture architect and see how it goes.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So there's one question. I think this is very specific to CDA. Is there a way to mimic the actual project experience before taking up the review board? I'm sorry. I would not get live project experience in all areas. And this is not the first time I'm hearing this question, Emely. A lot of people have come to me, and I'm also to my journey. I've just started, rather, I would say, my journey towards being an architect. And that's what I've been following here for quite some time. And you cannot, it's impossible that you have hands-on experience of everything that a technology offers. And Salesforce is extremely vast. Not everything you can touch there, you can have hands-on there. That's not possible. So how do you deal with that?
I would say try and get hands-on as much as you can. And I understand it's impossible right now. But also that's part of being a generalist and an architect is, can you understand something deep enough without doing it? And you can get away with it if you have 70% good, deep, hands-on project live experience. And then the other 30% you kind of theoretically get. And in your mind, you practice the scenario. So remember, before you go for your CTA, there are mock exams and mock review boards. And a lot of the user groups also invite people like me and the other CTAs to actually be judges for those, mock review boards. And those are quite important because even if you haven't got the domain expertise, those mocks will actually give you an idea of what you need to think about, what are the aspects that maybe are your gaps or you're missing where you don't have experience. So nobody has 100% hands-on experience. Even I didn't. When I went for my CTA, I can't claim that I worked on absolutely every single thing hands-on. But I think aim for 70-80% as much as you can. At least the key aspects like integration, security, platforms, core processes, etc. Those are really key because those are the things that kind of happen in every single project. And then there are some, peripheral aspects like when I went for my CTA boards, I didn't have any experience in marketing cloud. So, I had to talk to people, I had to do some self-learning, and I just had to understand the architecture on how it's going to fit in with my solution rather than go deep into that. So things like that, you will have to study for the boards separately, which is acceptable. I think everyone does that.
Yeah. Okay, guys, any other question? Okay, this is what we have on chat. And Emely, thank you so much for joining us. This was really insightful, and thank you for walking us through this. Sushant, I remember Emely sharing the Kahoot questions. Can you take over from here and run the Kahoot quiz?
Yeah, sure. I'm audible, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, please let me know when my screen is visible.
Not yet.
Okay. Is it visible?
So what are you sharing, by the way?
I'm sharing the Kahoot screen. Visible to you.
Okay, that's some delay, I believe. Yep, I think now I see Kahoot.
Okay. So guys, join this Kahoot quiz with this Pin 8951174.
Susan, do you mind posting the Kahoot link here in the chat window real quick again?
It's kahoot.it. It's if you see the screen, it says join at www.kahoot.it.
We can see it on your screen. Guys, it's on Sushant's screen, www.kahoot.it.
Yeah,
8951174 is the code that you need to enter.
right. Eight
And guys,
nine
please give
five
your
double
full
one
name. Um, please give your full name. That way it's easier to talk to you guys or contact you once you win this. Otherwise, generally, if your name is not good enough for Sushant to recognize it later, he keeps the gifts for himself. So please do. Is that right, Sushant?
Right now, right.
Right?
So guys,
Okay.
I know we always encourage people to write their official names so that it gets easy for us to recognize them. Otherwise, at the end of the session, we will ask the email IDs for them from the winners, and then we can go ahead with this. So, Neha, how many participants we left? Can you check?
Let me have a quick look at
I
it.
guess
We have 25 participants.
so. We are
And
expecting five or six more people to join.
absolutely.
Let's wait for one more minute, and then we will start. And then, meanwhile, you can check the chat if someone facing some issue while joining.
Absolutely. I don't see anything on chat for now. But guys, just post if you're having any issues and we'll try to fix it for you.
Okay, so I guess numbers are constant now, so we can start.
Absolutely.
Good luck, guys. Here's the first question. When thinking of your next career move, what should you be thinking about? Interesting question. All right, so nine people answer correctly, and maybe everyone have their own thoughts how like they are planning their next career move. But personally, I also go with the option D. Follow your aspirations and link to your strength. All right. So next question. Vishambar, Ankit, and Jagdeep, Gautam, and Vibin, they are on the top five. Superb guys. Keep playing. Developer is responsible for what? Let me find my option. All right. So most of you answered correctly, implementing the design correctly. Let's see who is on the top. Vishumber is still on the top. Now we've been taking the lead. Jagdeep on third. And now we have a new name, Mira, on the fourth. Very well played. Keep playing, guys. We have more questions left. Stakeholders for an architect are the options are developer, owners, CIO, and I guess business developer and CISO technology executive. What's your all right? only two people answer it correctly, and I guess all of everyone other than them are correct. Good, good to see you gathered some knowledge from today's session. All right, question number four. Architectural drivers include technology, landscape, and business priorities. Let's see the board now. Still Vishambar on the top, Vibin on second place, and Jagdeep on third. Mira has streak with four correct answers. Very well playing, Mira. Keep playing. Question number five. This is the second last question of our today's quiz. So guys, try to answer correctly. What are three ways to think like an architect? Think strategically, communicate effectively, and look at the big picture. Awesome. Now Jagdeep is leading. He jumped on second place. Vipin slipped down to third. No worries. Last question, guys. Good luck, everyone. I'm expecting correct answers from everyone for this one question. Okay, so most of them you answer correctly. Application architect and system architect as well as the certification pyramid. Great. Let's see the final board. Vipin on third, Jagdeep on second, and on first we have Vishambar. So congratulations, three of you, for winning today's Kahoot quiz. And other than them, guys, no need to worry about. This is not the final results. We have two more Kahoot quizzes coming up in later in our future weeks. So stay tuned with our other architect sessions. And meanwhile, Jagdeep, Vishambar, and Vipin, if you ping your email IDs on a chat so that we can maintain in our records. Over to you, Neha.
Thank you so much, Sushant, and congratulations to the day one winners. I can see Mira and Megha there too. So congrats, guys. Thank you for participating. And Mira, I'm disqualifying you in this round itself because the rest of the series will be conducted by Mira, guys. So she's here with us today. And thanks for participating, Mira, once again. Again, guys, any questions that you have, you can reach out to us. And Emely did share her details as well. So you can reach out to her as well. And Emely, thank you so much for sharing your experience and knowledge with us. This is extremely helpful. And I can say that because I am on that journey and I know how helpful your session has been. And it made me realize a couple of things where I'm going wrong. So thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this. And sorry again about the time confusion.
No worries. No worries. Thank you so much. Thank you,
All
guys.
right.
Thanks for joining in.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.